Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Sudan's army says that a senior RSF paramilitary commander is amongst those killed in the paramilitary shelling of the North Darfur capital of Fasher. It's the last major city in the region still held by government forces amidst a brutal two-year conflict. Also, in Uganda, opposition leader Bobi Wine says that security forces have besieged his party headquarters in Kampala, a move coming just as it was getting ready to protest in the run-up to next year's elections. And home is finally on the horizon for some. In South Africa, black families forced from their land under apartheid are finally on the threshold of getting it back. They're now just waiting for their new lodgings to be built after decades of legal and social struggle. But first, Sudan's army says that at least 41 people have been killed in shelling of the city of Fasher. It's the last major city in the Darfur region still held by government forces amidst a war with the RSF paramilitary. Now, Fasher's been besieged since last May, facing the prospect of a devastating cost in civilian lives should it fall. The humanitarian situation is already dire, and clashes have escalated this week, adding to an already severe humanitarian crisis. Olivia Bizot tells us more.
The Sudanese army says it's repelled a large-scale attack by the Rapid Support Forces, which began on Monday in Fasher, the last major city in the Darfur region not in the hands of the RSF. In a statement posted to its official channels, the military claims more than 600 RSF fighters were killed in those attacks and over 25 vehicles destroyed. It also reported the death of a senior RSF commander. Now, these claims have not been independently verified, and the RSF has not yet responded publicly. The army has also accused the RSF of shelling residential areas on Monday night, killing at least 41 civilians, including many women and children. This is not the first time that civilians have got caught in the crossfire. Since the war broke out between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces in April of 2023, both sides have been accused of specifically targeting civilians. Earlier this month, the RSF claimed control of Zamzam refugee camp located about 15 kilometres from Fasher after very heavy fighting. The UN says at least 400 civilians were killed there and nearly 400,000 people displaced. Fasher has seen repeated clashes since May of last year, despite international warnings that a full-scale battle could destabilise the entire Darfur region.
A regional correspondent, Olivia Bizot, there for us. So look now at some news in brief. Southern African troops in DR Congo, as part of a mission sent in December 2023 to push back against rebel groups that have been terrorizing the borderlands, are pulling out. On Tuesday, Rwanda said that its forces were escorting some of the SADC bloc fighters through its territory on to Tanzania as part of the drawdown. Now, the force has come under pressure since Kigali-backed M23 rebels lightning pushed through eastern DRC this year in an offensive that's cost thousands of lives and forced hundreds of thousands from their homes. In Nigeria, at least 15 mourners were killed when extremists opened fire on crowds in the village of Kwapel as they were gathered to pay their respects to the roughly 50 victims of attacks in Borno State over the last week. Jihadist violence has been escalating in northeastern Nigeria recently. On Tuesday, Nigeria appointed a new chief to lead the fight against the insurgency. Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar is the 15th commander to be named since Boko Haram extremists first emerged about 15 years ago. In South Africa, police are looking into possible arson as being the cause of fires that have been burning on Cape Town's Tabletop Mountain since Friday. On Tuesday, helicopters were still trying to douse the flames by dropping huge loads of water from above. Authorities say the situation is under control, but is being monitored for flare-ups. So far, about 3,000 hectares of vegetation have been destroyed. At least one person's been arrested on suspicion of having started the blazes deliberately. Well, in Uganda, opposition leader Bobi Wine accused security forces of besieging his party headquarters in Kampala. The move comes just as his NUP was getting ready to launch a protest campaign in the run-up to 2026 elections. Our regional correspondent has more.
Ugandan police have sealed off the headquarters of the National Unity Platform in the capital Kampala, reportedly to block the opposition party from launching a protest campaign. On social media, opposition leader Bobi Wine condemned what he described as police double standards. He also voiced concern over the disappearance of his bodyguard, Eddie Mutwe, who he says was abducted a day earlier by men believed to be wearing special forces uniforms. Security forces in Uganda have repeatedly targeted the NUP, led by Wine, a musician turned politician. Police most recently raided the party's headquarters in February. Police said the party's planned campaign was illegal, claiming the decision to intervene was made in the interest of maintaining, quote, public order. The campaign, according to the NUP, was aimed at rallying Ugandans, in particular the youth, to vote against the government and protest in defense of their democratic rights. Uganda is gearing up for a presidential election next January, in which President Yoweri Museveni is likely to try to extend his 40-year rule. The polls are expected to be tense, and incidents like this only heighten such concerns.
Regional correspondent there, Juliet Monti, giving us a breakdown of what's happening in Uganda. Now, in Guinea, the killing of several women by their partners over the space of just 1 week has thrown the scale of the national problem of femicide into stark relief. The wave of violence has prompted some survivors to take the risk to speak out. Our correspondents sent us this report.
Mon mari, il est en train de me battre et j'ai pas de paix à la maison.
Remembering the years of abuse she endured still feels like a nightmare. This survivor, who wants to remain anonymous, was forced into marriage at just 14 by her family.
He used the DVD cables to beat me, and then he shut the door. He even beat me when people came knocking on the door. He wouldn't open it. The slightest opportunity that presented itself, he'd beat me. At home, my parents would tell me to forgive him, that that's the way it is. Women have to submit.
After 3 years of marriage, she sought refuge with friends and has since launched legal proceedings against her husband. Her story is not unique in Guinea. Over just 1 week this April, 3 different women are known to have been killed by their partners, a shocking snapshot of the scale of violence against women in the country. Local NGOs are trying to raise more awareness about the problem.
There are women who are killed by their husbands, women who are beaten, women who suffer violence that they don't even dare to talk about. So I think the situation is alarming. It's urgent for us to take action to put an end to violence against women. And we're here to listen to them, to accompany them in their quest for justice.
Guinea recently opened its first free centre for survivors of gender-based violence. Here, they're offered medical, psychosocial and legal support. But one of the biggest obstacles to this fight is impunity.
Often, there's a lot of out-of-court settlements, and that's what we want to stop, because the aggressors must be punished in line with their crimes. Otherwise, it will continue. It's too easy to commit a crime and then come and ask for forgiveness. Bottom line is, one life is destroyed.
According to a UN study conducted in 2019, more than half of all women in Guinea have been subjected to domestic violence.
In South Africa, construction has begun to build 86 houses for families who had been forcibly removed from their homes under apartheid. In a landmark case, claimants lodged a land restitution application back in 1995 after the fall of the racist regime. Now, that request was approved in 2006, but it took almost 20 years for them to acquire the land. Our team reports.
Kathleen Basson is 93 years old. 60 years ago, during apartheid, her community was forcibly removed from a leafy suburb near Table Mountain into dense townships in the Cape Flats.
Everybody was heartbroken because of the removal that was going to happen while I was still there. And then as time went by and it became a reality, they had no other option because they were practically put out.
The suburb they were removed from went on to become one of the most expensive in the country, Bishop's Court. After the fall of apartheid, removed families lodged an application for land restitution. It was successful, and 30 years later, construction has begun to build 86 houses in a landmark case, meaning Kathleen's family and community are returning home.
No, it's a very joyous feeling because we are going to be reunited after being gone so long from each other.
Yeah, for me, it's an historical occasion. I am so thankful for my mom for having been in this battle. But it also shows you, despite the amount of years it takes you to get your land back, the fight is worth it.
The development garnered the support of neighbouring residents, a positive example of land restitution with willing sellers.
It's the first of its kind in South Africa, and I've been involved for 3.5 years now, and I've only seen it positive. It's been stalled at times, but it certainly sets a precedent for what can be done elsewhere.
Kathleen will receive the keys to her new home in 2027.
That is, though, all we have time for Eye in Africa. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.